Hello and welcome to Real Chat with Kat, the podcast dedicated to igniting your entrepreneurial spirit and empowering you to conquer new horizons. In this podcast, we chat with inspiring entrepreneurs on their journey to success through some amazingly insightful and expansive conversations. These episodes thrive on thought-provoking chats where our guests fearlessly explore their path to success, sharing their experiences, failures, and triumphs. No topic is off limits as we deep dive into the talked about and not so talked about pieces it takes to build a business, overcome limiting beliefs, deal with personal struggles, and everything in between that shapes our lives and our businesses. I'm your host, Kat Polsinelli, creator and founder at The Lotus Effect, where we believe that success is not just about strategies and tactics, it's about cultivating a powerful mindset and creating customized business operations that align with you and your true purpose. Whether it's mastering time management, improving productivity, enhancing leadership skills, or simply fostering a growth-oriented mindset, we'll provide you with the tools and strategies to flourish in both your business and personal life. I'm so excited to have you join us today in this episode, so get ready to feel empowered and inspired as we learn together and from one another on how to rise above challenges, break through limitations, and unlock our full potential. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today on this episode of Real Chat with Kat. I am so excited to have you here with me today, and I am so excited to have my guest here today. It's been quite a few months, and I was just blown away by some of the things that her and I got a chance to chat about. So I am so excited to bring her to you guys today to be able to share all of the insights and then some. So Anna, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
You are so welcome. I can't wait to dive in. So, as we go ahead and dive in straight away, do us all a favor then and tell us who you are and what it is that you do.
Yes, my pleasure. So I'm Ana Sasmiresan. I'm a Romanian-American businesswoman, and I actually really do a few things. So that's a lot to explain. I am a vice president with Randstad. In my corporate job, I get to help companies across the state of Florida find employees along with my team. And that's very exciting. And then I also own a business called Transformation Through Conversations, which is your place for leadership development, strategic planning, and business coaching. We really focus on transforming organizations through their people.
I love this. And I think it's so great, though, to see that you have a job that you really enjoy and you have the ability to run your business. I can't tell you how many people I have met with that are in the entrepreneurial space, whether they are just beginning their journey or they've been in it for a while, that are like trying to figure out still like, okay, how do I do this? What is the correct avenue? Do I just want to run my business? Do I want to do, something on the side? And I always tell everybody, like, you have to follow your own path, right? You have to find your own way of doing things. That's the beauty of entrepreneurship. There is no like specifically set right direction. And depending on what you're wanting out of your business, can really decide what you want to do when it comes to structuring your business and building it, right? I talked to someone the other day and I was like, not everybody wants to build a multi-million dollar business on their own, but they have a passion of something that they really love to do, and being able to help others and get paid to do it, right? Is like, it's a
Yeah.
bonus on top of the things that they already get to do. And I think it's so awesome to see people that have figured out how to bridge that gap and the ability to run corporate plus a business and life in
Yes.
general.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like at some days it really does feel like a superwoman day. But I would tell you that we are in a completely different economy right now. The gig economy obviously is huge and it's growing. And I don't know if you know, but 64% of Americans actually have some sort of side hustle.
Oh,
Sorry,
interesting.
54% of Americans have some sort of side hustle. And so it's really popular. And it's embraced. At the same time, I think it's really important that you perform in your role, in your base role, you perform very well, and then you transform. And as that happens, you actually add value to both spaces, both your corporate role and your business, and you're just evolving as a human being. And if you're doing something you're really passionate about, and you make a difference, you'll be surprised how much energy you actually have.
I can so agree with that, like 100%. I do think that when you're in a space of loving something that you do and kind of like adding something on top of it, when you have the correct foundation, right? When you're not trying
Hmm.
to fit into everybody's boxes, you really end up having so much energy because I feel like you're completely pulling all of the energy and all of the passion and all of the things that you want to do kind of in a day-to-day basis, which I find really interesting, especially for, people that are multi-passionated, right? Like I know that if I have a slow day, sometimes I'm like fiddling my thumbs and I'm like, I feel like I
Hmm.
should be doing so much more. And I feel like when it's time to go to sleep, even though I'm like ready to go to sleep, my brain is like, but I have 10,000 other things we could do. So I
Yeah.
find it really interesting though, when I have like a really mission filled day, that even though it might feel like, wow, that was a lot, at the same time when I go to bed, it's not exhaustion, it's just like complete peace. Like I used up all of the energy that had built
Hmm.
in that day from what I was doing.
Oh yeah, I sleep really well too, Kat. So I completely understand. Um, for me, it happened a few years ago. I've always had this idea that, I work in my role, the company should provide me with opportunities for growth. And there was actually a point when I realized, wait a minute, it's not the company's responsibility to provide me with opportunities to grow. They are they can provide me opportunities, experiences, but I really have to own my growth. I have to invest in my own development. I have to really see what gets me out of bed excited every morning and be able to add to what I'm already doing in order to fill my cup, because I feel like I have a really big cup. We all are born with so much potential, unlimited potential, but we actually have limited energy. So if we are able to harness that energy in the right way, so that we can actually start building and upon the talents that we have and fulfill our potential, we actually we are capable of doing so much in our lives. We are capable of making a difference in communities. We can find time to, on top of the full-time job and the side hustle, to even volunteer and help with other projects. And it's really incredible because all that impact, all that we do that makes things happen around us, actually gives us more and more energy and more excitement. And we become more and more creative and efficient in how we utilize ourselves to really make an impact in the world. And I just am passionate about growing people. I love people. I think people don't actually realize how much potential they have inside. And in a way, when I was sitting down a few years ago and trying to really think, well, what is really my purpose? I realized that my purpose, I think, is to help other people see their potential and to start fulfilling that potential, because every single day we can improve a little bit. Unfortunately, the world expects that, or the way the world is today, there's an expectation that we do this quickly, right? But
Hmm.
realistically, if I think it was in the Atomic Habits, right? I think James Clear said, if we improve just 1% per day, in 100 days, we are 100% better. And we just really have to work on that. So for me, on my corporate journey and my entrepreneurial journey, that's really what I try to do. I try to constantly develop myself so that I can have more to offer. And I love growing people. I love working with companies. I also really enjoy in my corporate job helping my team, elevate them, and finding employees that help the companies we work with, develop into strong organizations and then create even more jobs. And it's such a cycle, right? We are able to impact one person, a company, the economy, and it comes right back around. And that kind of stuff just really gets me going. I really love all the things that I get to do.
I love it. And it's such a beautiful testament to like when you really look at what you are passionate about and what you want to do and kind of shut out the outside noise, it's a lot easier to be like, okay, so then how can I build upon this? And I actually love that you said, I was expecting the company to fulfill me and give me all of these opportunities. And then I realized, right, that like I had the ability to do that. I was literally just listening to a video the other day. I believe it was Simon Sinek that was talking with a gentleman, and the gentleman was saying, we tend to now, especially after COVID, like to put everything that we need, that we want, that people should be doing for, like all on one person, right? Or all in
Hmm.
one cup. So if it's a relationship, you expect them to just cover all of these pieces of you versus like having people that you can talk to, having friends that you can go and do something different with, having opportunities here and volunteering maybe here. Like we
Hmm.
forget that we should be spreading out the things that we do, the things that we love, and the things that we need to fill our cup instead of
Yeah.
expecting it to be in one specific space, right? And so I love that you said that. Like that was one of those moments like, oh my gosh, I just listened to this. And it's so, so true, which is really interesting because I know that several years ago I never would have thought that, right? I would have put all the pressure on the job that I was in, which is why I was never happy, then trying to put it in just my entrepreneurial journey and then getting burnt out, to saying like, okay, well,
Hmm.
maybe my spouse can be the big person that holds more joy. And it's like, but that's not fair. And we are such diverse people that we should be exploring other angles and other opportunities around us consistently. And as we grow, they're going to change. But I do feel like it is our responsibility to
Yeah.
fill our cup and love the others that are around it. So I would love to know, in regards to your business, you talk about this transformation through conversations. What does that mean to you?
Mm. Kat, that is such a good question. And I had put so much intention into picking the name for my company. I actually truly believe that we transform through conversations as a group, as a maybe a family relationship or a company or a community. Conversations give us opportunity. They are experimentation labs. They allow for a platform for us to say something that's never been said. It should be a back and forth. Conversations are powerful. Just imagine the a community, let's just say a city, right? Where all the leaders are just trying to do things by themselves. Well, they won't get very far. But if they actually involve in conversations all the different entities, companies, education organizations, churches, nonprofits, you name it, if they actually invite everyone at the table to have a conversation, just imagine how that community can transform. So that is actually why I named my company Transformation Through Conversation. I believe that right now, as we are having this conversation, there is going to be some transformation happening. Maybe it's small, maybe it's big, but there's different things that happen when people talk and when they have a platform to talk openly and there is respect. And when we have different ideas, we stop and say, hey, I'm not going to judge you for your different idea, but help me understand how you think that way. How did you arrive there? Maybe I'm missing something. It's all about exploring the conversation. So the way I use that in my business is truly by helping people talk, helping people have real good conversations, helping people understand that they have to hear in such way that others are willing to speak and speak in such way that others are willing to listen. And
Mhm.
there's a way to do that, right? And so it's all about Any project, anything starts with a conversation. And as we go through it and we keep talking, we are transforming it. We're making it happen. We have a problem at work. We get together, we talk about it, and then we find a solution, and then we transform the situation. So that's really the basis of the name. And as I have now worked with many clients over the last 3 years, many of them, after I work with them for a period of time, they come back and say, "Oh my gosh, I get it. It is transformation through conversation. Now I get it. It actually really takes is a conversation to get to the next level." That's what it means.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And what's so funny is I feel like this is something that has continually come up over the last several months, and it is this opening of how we are conversating, right? And it goes
Mm-hmm.
back to very simple terms in my personal opinion, which, is curiosity. The more that we can lean in with curiosity, the less that we're going to judge what is being said, and the more that we want to try to understand. And when you were talking, like the first thing that popped in my head is, I don't know if you've ever heard the saying, two heads are better than one. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like,
Yeah.
that makes so much sense. Like if you think about that, that's where innovation comes from. That's where connections and creation, like that's where things come from. I mean, if
Yeah.
you look at even like Albert Einstein and Benjamin Franklin, like when you look back at like the way that they conversate about things, they don't ever talk about just them and what they created. They talk about the masterminds and the people around them and what they were
Mm-hmm.
connected to, and then where that led them to discover or make something different or try something they had never tried before. And I love that because I think that that also shows the beauty of perception from
Yeah.
every person. And that's something that I don't think we talk enough about, which is every single person, depending on what they have been through, what they have seen in life, and what has stuck with them, can shift the way that they perceive something. So
Mm-hmm.
we can be saying the exact same thing, but you might be saying it slightly different, or someone over here hears one thing, and this person over
Right.
here hears something completely different. And I think to me that it's one of the coolest things because it also shows how different we are and how we have the ability to see things beyond this three-dimensional world. And that's in conversation. It's not just a
Mm-hmm.
string of words put together. When you really look at it, and if you ask people, like, what did you think about that? What did you think that they were trying to get at? What did you take away from that? That's one of my favorite things to ask. What did you take away
Yeah.
from that person? It's always interesting to see how people pick certain things
Yeah.
depending on who they are or where they are at in their journey when it's
True.
something that is written one specific way.
Yeah, true. I experience this a lot, especially in some of my masterminds that I run. And they're usually small groups, 6 to 10 people. And I will just lead with one question, and most of the times get that many different perspectives. And I think that's so cool because then in that environment, those people in that group leave that conversation with 6 to 10 perspectives, and they actually go back to their environment, and where maybe before they were very strict in how they were interpreting certain things, now all of a sudden they think, wow, maybe there are multiple ways. It's all about that abundance mindset, right? Like really understanding that most problems in the world have more than one solution, and there's many
Yes.
different ways to do things. But at the base of that, Kat, I think there are two things. One, respect. I don't think that we listen to each other enough, or we conversate with each other enough because of lack of respect. And we are trying to impose our opinion without truly valuing the person, on which is the other thing, valuing the person, right? Valuing that, hey, they as human beings have an opinion that they're entitled to. And I want to, in order for me to be effective and take this conversation to the next level, I need to understand, so that the entire concept of understanding what is said is really falls on the listener, right? You have to be engaged, you have to respect, you have to value that maybe they do have something of value to say, and engage in that conversation further. I was having a coffee with a friend today, and just in half an hour, we came up with an idea that we want to follow up on in the new year that before that half an hour, we never thought of. And if we hadn't met for lunch, maybe we would not have thought of for a very long time or ever. So it's so interesting what can happen, what can come out of conversation. It's actually a very rich place.
Yeah. And I feel like the other piece of this too is being able to grow within yourself to allow space for these kinds of conversations,
Mm-hmm.
right? I feel like everything kind of circulates back to like, where are you at in your journey? Are you working on personal development? Are you trying to grow your own mindset so that you can be a part of these? Because unfortunately, most of us, a large majority of us, myself included for a really long time, we are a little conceited. We're a little egotistical. We kind of get stuck in our own ways. And that, again, that comes from all kinds of scenarios and backgrounds and how you were raised or how you had to protect yourself. It's not necessarily that it's in a bad way or you're doing it for a bad reason. A lot of times it's to make sure that you are not hurt again. And so I love the thought of, kind of coming back to, how do we start having these kinds of conversations? How do we open up our mind to these kinds of conversations so that we make space for incredibleness to be discovered? What are your thoughts?
Oh, that's so good. So, John Maxwell says that the hardest kind of leadership is self-leadership.
Mm,
So I think it starts there, right? It starts, I think it's quite interesting that quite often we do to others exactly the opposite of what we expect of them to do to us. And in many ways, like we say, you should be more patient with me, but I'm not more patient with you. Or you should listen to me more, but I'm not listening to you. I'm not even talking about, ill intent. I'm talking about day-to-day things that actually that is who we show up, and that is how people experience us, and that is based on the way we manage ourselves, right? How do we want to show up? Maybe I want to have better conversations. If I struggle to have conversations with teams or in relationships, I need to know that, hey, that's a gap, and I can't just say, well, I'm just not good at that. No, you're just not good at that yet. You have to read, invest in yourself, and start practicing some new ways, because you have to want to be better at whatever it is that you're not good at every single day, even just a little bit. So I think it's self-leadership is being very intentional, really understanding what are your strengths. Most people can tell you very quickly what they're not good at, but they can't really tell you very quickly what is their superpower.
mhm.
They don't know what it is. There's in traditional employment always tells you what you're not good at, what you need to improve. Most leaders and most companies don't celebrate people every day for the things that they're great at. They might give them a good job, but they don't really know for what. So they're not really sure what to duplicate, right? So it's important that we understand what our strengths are, that we want to be super intentional to grow, that we surround ourselves with people that actually elevate us. And this is probably the hardest one, because we can't always choose who we surround ourselves with. And it's important that we have people in our corner that advocate for our growth. And probably in some scenarios, there will be people that will try to make sure we don't grow, because they are not because they don't want it for us, but because they don't know what to do with us, with a different us, right? They don't know
Mhm.
how to, they're not willing to grow with us. So the environment in which we are is extremely important to personal growth. But I have a saying, and I think that every time I say it impacts people because they really get to think about it, which is that we all have a diamond inside, but it only shines if we're willing to polish it, right? We're all born with that raw diamond. There is this brilliance inside of it, but it's dull unless we polish it and unless we maintain it. And unless we come back to it more and more over time, it just becomes dull again, right? So it's important that we realize what that is. It's important that we work on it. It's important that we stay, that we stay focused on being 1% better every day, if not more, right? But without that, I think that over 1 year, 10 years, we are going to feel very stuck. And when we feel stuck, after a period of time, we get depressed. And when we get depressed, we start actually hurting ourselves and others in various ways. So, humans are not made to be one way for 35 years. They're like a plant in a way, right? That's ever evolving, and we have to keep harvesting the fruits every single year and to help that process. So I just want to encourage people that are listening to this, for them to really realize that they have so much more potential. I was asking a series of professionals in their 40s and 50s. I said, hey, what potential do you think you fulfilled up to this stage of your life? And nobody gave me over 30%.
Wow.
In their 40s and 30s. I mean, that's like mid-career, already
Yeah.
planning for retirement, kind of seeing it ahead. And all the people had regrets. I wish I had done this more, moved here, that, given myself more chances, believed in myself more, read more books. I mean, all these things that it's really inexpensive. Look at my books over here. It's really inexpensive to grow. It's $15-$20 and a little bit of your time invested in yourself.
But like you said in the beginning of that, you have to want to be a part of that growth, right? That's the bigger thing. And I think that for some of us, there's like that nudge that we want it, but we have to hit rock bottom, or like me, be smacked in the face several times before we realize that we want to do something different. And the fear of something different becomes less of a fear than where we are at now, right? Like that is a huge turning point that I hear from a lot of people is you have to almost get to a space, and I hate this, but a lot of people are, I got to this space where I was so uncomfortable in the knowing that like the not knowing seemed better, right?
Yeah.
And
Mm.
it's like you said, you can start so small if you want to move in that direction. And, like you said, 1% better, like you get to define what that 1% is, right? There's no measurement that's sitting out there. There's no person going, well, this person did this, which led to this. That's 1%. Like there's nothing to gauge off of it because every person's journey is so different, is
Yeah.
so unique, right? So for us, it could be reading a new book. For other people, it could be making their bed and getting out of bed during the day. Like
Mm-hmm.
you get to determine what is your 1% better. And I don't think that we talk about that enough. There's so many amazing speakers that share all of this knowledge and all this information. And this is how you can improve. And this is how you can do things so easily in this direction. But we forget to tell people that depending on where you are at in your journey and depending on where you are going is going to depend on what that looks like for you. So your 1% is going to be very different than this person's 1%. And
Mm-hmm.
that's okay. It doesn't make it wrong. You have to be the one that judges that and decides where you are proud of in the direction that you're going.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's so many different scenarios in people's lives, so I don't wanna say that it's easy to get out of the rut. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but I would invite people to just think, hey, what do you wish was better? Let's just start there. What do you wish was better? Whatever that is, what can you do today to make it just a tidbit better today? Or where do you get stuck? What could you do today to just understand why you get stuck, and and then start working on it. Because I feel like once we start, if we can create a little bit of excitement around, wow, you know what, with just a tidbit of effort, I did a little bit better. Wow. Imagine if we put that tidbit of effort 10 days every day. You spoke about reading a book. You know, I'm a nut about reading books. So people tell me all the time, I haven't read in so long because I read this one book and I didn't finish it and I'm still waiting to finish it. And maybe for some people, that was like 10 years ago. Okay. They are still stressed out about the book they picked up that maybe didn't speak to them. And they're like 2/3 in and they just can't finish it. And that is the reason that they haven't picked up other books to grow. And so I want to liberate people to say, don't worry about the book, just read from whatever book you want. I think right now I'm reading 22 books at a time. I'm literally going from book to book and reading a chapter from this one and a chapter from this one and a chapter from that one. And if I have books here behind me and over there, and all the books that are still in the works have a pen in it exactly where I'm at. So that I know that at any given time I can go and pick it back up. But do you know how liberating that was for me to be able to say, I'm reading a lot. But I'm not stuck on the one book. And also I read a lot of self-help books. And I find that if I go from the beginning to the end, I haven't grown through that information. So then I feel like, well, that book, yeah, was great, but I feel like I need to read it again. And then I read it again, and then I that happens to me again. So then what I actually decided is I'm going to read one chapter and really be intentional about trying to apply that. But I like to read a little bit every day. So tomorrow I'm going to read from a completely different book, a completely different thing. And this layered learning and layered reading actually helped me grow so fast. And it helped me realize that the mindset around reading, the mindset around growing is not, you're not doing the whole bottle at once. It's one sip at a time and it compounds. And some of the books I read twice, the second and even third time, I actually learned something completely different, something that I wasn't even prepared to see yet, because I needed to grow through it to get to the next level. So there are some of those books as well. But I know this isn't just about books. This is really about everything. We have to allow ourselves to experiment. It's fun. If it doesn't work out, laugh at it. If you lost a little bit of money in the process, I hope it's not a lot. There is this author, his name is Ryan Leake. He wrote a book called Chasing Failure. And he says, if you're smart, you're going to try to fail early and cheaper, right? So, try things out. If they don't work out, even if, let's say you opened a company. I had a company before that didn't work out. I close it up. It's fine. It's no big deal. That is not the end of me, or, it was fun to learn how to own a business and to learn what to not do again, and to learn what to do more of. And now I own another business and I'm just growing through that. I think we're too attached to what we know. And the reason we don't learn what we don't know is because of what we know. We're too attached to the comfort zone, to what we know, to where we're safe, to where we're in control, to where we're a subject expert, to where we have authority. And those things stop us from going to the next level quite often.
Yeah, I can totally agree with that. And what I am hearing in what you're saying as well is, and something that has really hit me lately is, we talk about how healing is not a linear path. And I really do believe that our growth is not a linear path,
No, it's
right?
not.
Depending
Yeah.
on where you're at, depending on where you failed, depending on where you pivoted, like there's all this up and down and backwards, and let me go forward and maybe to the
Mhm.
left a little, so it's really interesting that I think, like you said, we've been so stuck in the ways that we have been taught. We have been
Yeah.
taught to process something out through A, B, C, and D, right? And I mean, even when you and I had the conversation and you told me you're reading multiple books, I was like, wait a minute. You can do that. Like it
Yes,
was
you
an
can.
epiphany. It was an epiphany for me because there have been several books that like I really enjoyed reading them, but for some reason I get to a certain chapter and I'm like, and then I don't want to
Hmm.
pick it up, and then I feel so bad because I'm like, oh, but I'm not finishing it. And I think that sometimes that we get stuck in that when it comes to our learning as well, because we have
Yeah.
been taught if you don't finish something, then you're a failure. And that is such horse crap. Like
Yes, it is.
it is such
Yes.
baloney because, like you said, you're learning it in increments and in the spaces that you need to, but trying to read or do something from one end to the other, right, from A to Z doesn't always work. And, like building a business, we talked about this before we started. Like I built it one direction and then I moved into this one and then it kind of pivoted here and then something
Yeah.
else happened. So I have continued to grow and learn more of what I desire and don't desire, but that has not been a linear path at all. There have been so
Right.
many jagged edges. And I think that that's something that we as a society should be taught more is it isn't always a straight line. Our roads aren't
Hmm.
straight. Our
Hmm.
mountains are not straight. Our streams are not straight, right? There's beauty in those curves. There's beauty in those pivots. And I think it's time that we get back to that and get a
Hmm.
little bit away from that straight line because I think that it holds so many of us back, myself included. I literally was having a really hard time picking up another book because I had not finished that other one until you and I had a conversation, and I was
Oh,
like, oh,
yay.
this
I
is
liberated
okay.
you. I love it. Oh,
I
thank
have
you for telling me
liberated
that.
me.
I love
So
I love that you're sharing that. Thank you for telling me that.
yeah, it really did make
Yeah.
a difference because I've always been a high achiever. I've always been like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to finish through it. And then I realized I don't I don't always have to do that. Like, and it's not that I
Yeah.
failed at it. It's just it doesn't matter to me anymore, or it isn't the direction that I want to go anymore. So it's not that I have failed. It's just I met to the peak of where I needed to go, where my
Right.
personality, where my body, where my intention lied, and the rest of it just doesn't line up. That doesn't make it a failure. It just means I
Right.
succeeded in the direction where I needed to go, and now I get to move on to something else. So I love
Yeah.
this conversation, and I think that it's so amazing what you're doing. And I do agree with you. I believe that there is so much transformation that we can have just through the conversations that we have with people if we allow ourselves to be open, to be integrative, to
Hmm.
actually hear what they are saying and intake that information. And then also, have a space of curiosity and ask for clarity to make sure that you're understanding. I think that that is the beauty in a lot of the things that we get to do. We just have to
Yeah.
decide to do it. So, and I love this conversation so much, and I want to make sure that people get a chance to follow you, to connect with you, to be in your world. So, how can people do that?
Thank you, Kat. It's so important what we're talking about. In fact, I feel like we live in a society of compliance and not curiosity. Okay, we're trying to put people to we're teaching people, even kids, right? This is where we have the generational differences because kids are really challenging us right now. And that is not how we do it, right? That is not how we've always done it. And so I appreciate, this is important. I really want to leave this conversation with this piece, which is that every space you're in has more potential than you see.
Mm,
And if you want to take it to the next level, all you really have to do is have a conversation. And all you really have to do is ask, what's in your mind? What's on your mind? What ideas do you have? How do you see this one issue or another issue? Even if it's politics and we are on a completely different playing field, it's okay as long as we can have the conversation, right? So I invite people to do that, and they can follow me on LinkedIn. It's Ana Sasmiresan, so it's my first and last name, or Transformation Through Conversations. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, and also coming soon. coming soon. At wehaveadiamondinside.com.
Ooh, I like it. And of course, we'll have all that information in the show notes. I'll make it super easy for you to be able to connect with
Thank
Anna
you.
and click on it and follow her and be a part of her journey as well. So, Anna, thank you so much for the conversation today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yes, you are so welcome. You are welcome anytime. To everybody else out there, I hope that this really got your juices flowing. I hope that this is making you think in a different way because I agree with Anna. Our society has taught us to be compliant. It's taught us to do things a specific way in a certain direction. And I can tell you that if you look up any innovator and people that have created things that we didn't think were possible, it wasn't because they followed the rules. I'm not saying we need to break all the rules. I'm just saying sometimes leaning in with some flexibility can make a huge difference, not only in your life, but in your journey and in the direction that you are moving forward, but also in the people that it ripples out across. So until next time, do one thing positive for someone each and every day and see the difference that it makes in your life. Until next time, catch you later. Hello again, and thank you so much for being a part of the podcast today. If you enjoyed this episode and it brought tons of value, we ask that you please share, like, and subscribe. Your support means the world to us and helps us to reach even more inspiring entrepreneurs who can benefit from these powerful conversations. If you haven't already, be sure to leave a review on your favorite podcast platform, as this feedback is an amazing gift that fuels our growth and helps us to continually improve this podcast. Looking for an extra dose of inspiration and empowerment? Then be sure to connect with me on social media. You can find me at The Lotus Effect, where I share valuable resources and tips while sharing my own journey of being an entrepreneur. And if you're interested in learning more about my coaching programs and services, be sure to check out my website at the-lotus-effect.com. Once again, thank you so much for being a part of Real Chat with Kat. Your presence and support makes all the difference. Remember, whether you find yourself in the depths of the mud or on the path of growth, we all have a unique journey. And just like the lotus, some of us start in the dirtiest of mud, yet as we rise and grow, we blossom into something beautiful, unique, and truly one of a kind. To all of my visionaries out there, keep rising and growing as you create your own Lotus Effect.